Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Court-Martail Podcast. Introducing your host for this evening first. He is the host with the most from the West Coast, the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg. And his partner, he has colonized, energized, and revolutionized the podcasting wrestling world today. Your Colonial champion, Sean McCarty. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Night 2, Episode 108 Sunday. That's right, the second night, 2 in a row. We barely ever do this, but we're doing it because WWE's doing it, and we like being copycats, although we are far more original than what WrestleMania Sunday ended up being, although it was unique, I'll give it that. I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, here with my co-host in crime, who I'll introduce in a second. Going over the good, of which there is very little on this show, the bad, of which there was quite a lot on this show, and the ugly, of which was the entire show. But I can't talk about it all alone, because with me, as always, is the man of the hour, the man with the power too sweet to be sour, the conqueror of aquariums everywhere, the Bay Area Brawler himself, Skylar Greenberg. How you doing, buddy?
I'm currently reporting live from a fish tank, and I can tell you right now, Sean, that the shit that I'm seeing in this fish tank was more entertaining than what happened on WrestleMania Sunday.
Yeah, boy was it. Now to break a little kayfabe here, to break the fourth wall, when we recorded the WrestleMania Saturday review, which you all heard yesterday, when you heard yesterday's podcast, we recorded that the day after WrestleMania Saturday, which means that we have had a full week to digest what happened on WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday. So it's been a little while for us, even though it's only been a mere 24 hours for you as to the reviews of these shows. And sometimes, Sky, and I know you believe this too, is that when you have some time to really go back and think about what you said and also think about everything that happened, sometimes your opinions can change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
That is fair. There's been a lot of digesting because we need a lot of time to figure out the things that we wanted to say about not just Sunday, but also things that we thought about Saturday.
Yeah, and you know, before we really get into Sunday, I have to say the primary thing, after watching what Sunday was, I have to concede that I might have been a little too harsh on night one. Given the fact that even with the Ronda Rousey and Charlotte segment, even though I still have not watched the match because I refuse, just on principle of what Ronda Rousey is, but at least they had a one-on-one singles match, which had some semblance of sense because Charlotte worked as much of a miracle as she humanly could. And I also have to concede the point of that Skylar made on yesterday's show, that Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, I went back and rewatched it, and I was far too critical on that match. It did tell a good story. My biggest complaint is that they were very fast in their storytelling. It was a fast-paced match. I would have liked to see it slowed down a little. But honestly, given the fact that I shut off the commentary, I shut off all the audio and just watched it in a vacuum, that match was actually quite good and one of the best of the weekend. I know your favorite of the weekend.
Easily the best of the weekend. And given what's transpired on WrestleMania Sunday, I think I deserve a 4 seed and a little pat on the back.
Yes, I will definitely give you the credit where credit is due. That was, it was a good call, and you said it then. You said it yesterday, Sky, that would likely be one of the best matches. Well, you said it was the best match of the weekend. I still liked Cody and Seth just a little bit better, but all in all, that show was better than I had given it credit for. Am I going to change my rating on it? Probably not. Maybe I'll give it a 5, because I did say it was kind of a middling show for me, but in any case, WrestleMania Saturday.
You said your part. Hold on. You said your part about Saturday. Now allow me to say my part on Saturday.
Yes, please. You have revisions.
So I was thinking about WrestleMania Saturday and my endless praise for it. And I think maybe perhaps in the same vein that you critique the show a little too harshly, I probably overpraised WrestleMania Saturday because I like the show, but again, I gave it a lot of handicaps in order to be a good show. You know what I mean? Right?
I do. And that's sadly what you have to do with modern pro wrestling is you have to give it so many handicaps in order for it. You have to let a lot of things go in order to like what's on the show. And so I think the answer between the two of us is probably somewhere in the middle. It was all right. It was all right.
It was a passable wrestling show, which is not bad considering what was to follow.
Well, yeah, neither of us knew. Neither of us knew what was coming up. And
well, I mean, I think we knew that it was going to be bad. We didn't imagine it would be this bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I guess we'll just hop into it. Now, what were your thoughts of Night 2, WrestleMania Sunday, in a nutshell?
It took all the goodwill that WrestleMania Saturday had built up and killed it into the ground.
Yeah. I mean, and not only killed it, but sodomized the corpse and then buried it underneath, 6 feet underneath, dug it back up, picked it out of the coffin, sodomized it again, and reburied it.
But enough about Triple H.
Well, we're going to get to him, but we are actually not here alone. And Sky, I love your aquarium talk, but for the sake of enunciation, I would like to take the reins on reading these notes, if you don't mind.
No, that's perfectly fine, because I'm going to be honest with you. The notes that JoshAgeddon has sent us are hilarious, and they need to be fully heard.
And I have not read them yet, so this will be organically read for each and every one of you out there. So, JoshAgeddon, proper grammar notes, Sky. Oh my god, I just realized, he has an intro. Roll it!
It's time for JoshAgeddon's Notes of the Week. It's time for his Notes of the Week. Oh, yeah.
And I quote, in all caps,
Shut the fuck up, Michael Cole.
in all
Shut
caps,
the fuck up.
or The Rock that one time that he mocked Michael Cole. And in all caps he writes, "Dear fucking God in heaven, strike me down please, or at the bare minimum erase everything I just watched from my mind. Holy shit stains, Batman. Here I thought Night 1 was bad. Night 1 was a fucking Van Gogh, spelled incorrectly, painting in comparison to this bullshit fest of fuckery." Not even joking, WrestleMania 38 Night 2 is not just the worst WrestleMania I've ever seen. Not just one of the worst wrestling shows I've ever seen, but one of the worst shows I ever had the displeasure of witnessing. This show is every reason why God has left us. Even Satan himself took one look at this and went, "God, I am sorry for everything I've done that has led us to this." WrestleMania 38 Night 2 made Satan apologize to God. And, while I won't necessarily throw the Christianic undertones into the statement, I would have to agree. There is no way that you can look at any WrestleMania, including WrestleMania 9, WrestleMania 27, even WrestleMania Night 2 last year. None of them are as bad as what was foisted off onto the public in AT&T Stadium in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, April the 3rd, 2022. That was an abomination.
It says something when you have a WrestleMania 32, which even of itself was not particularly well received by all the people, and outdo it.
Yeah, I would watch Roman Reigns versus Triple H 6 times in a row rather than watch this show again. That's where we're
I
at.
watched that Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, and Becky triple threat where Charlotte wins, LOL, again over the shit I watched on this show.
Yeah, and the first things on my notes, I wrote, "This could be it. The nail in the WWE coffin," and boy was it. But we'll get to that. So they play America the Beautiful. They do the recap of Night 1. We get more Mark Wahlberg. Again, I ask, why is he there? Why are you here, Mark? You're a celebrity, I get it, but why are you here?
Checks. The paycheck.
Paycheck. Well, okay, fair enough. But then we get what I would argue is probably the highlight of the show, and that's Triple H walking down to the ring, and I genuinely did not expect to hear his music and to see him come down to the ring.
I mean, we knew he was in Dallas, but we didn't expect him to do it on the grandest stage of them all.
Yeah. And so, obviously, this was going to be a retirement speech, and it really wasn't much of one. It was just saying, you know, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The crowd cheered. He soaked it in. This is like one of those rare times when I'm like, milk this for as long as you want, Hunter. Take it all in. You weren't able to have a retirement match, so this is probably it. So, let it happen.
Let them, just like Undertaker, let the man have his moment in front of the crowd so they can acknowledge him one last time.
Yeah. And then that's exactly what happened, and he left his boots, and then he said, welcome to WrestleMania, and he left his boots and mic in the ring. And I will have to say, Mark Wahlberg did get one thing right, because one of his last statements before this show started was, I'm not crying, you're crying. Because it was really touching. And Triple H is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. You know, good, bad, not indifferent with him. You can't deny the hard work and loyalty of a man like Triple H.
Yes, but unfortunately, those boots and the microphone being left in the ring pretty much meant one thing, and that a little piece of wrestling has just died.
Yeah. And if you weren't convinced by that, we got 3 hours and 48 minutes left to prove it to you.
So sit back, relax, and grab some popcorn. This is the Court-Martail podcast. Play the intro again.
That's right. Restart. Start it over.
We're starting over and getting a good WrestleMania night, too.
Yeah, please. Dear God, please. So, and we start off... Oof. We start off with the Raw Tag Team Championships. It is RK Bro versus Alpha Academy versus Shitty and Poopy, also known as the Street Profits. What did you think?
I thought we were watching WrestleMania because I was watching this match and thinking, is this the Young Bucks versus the Jurassic Express versus Redragon from Revolution all over again?
Well, at least two of those people... I would say that Redragon are at least both equally very good at what they do, and they actually had kind of got over. This one, Orton's over, and I don't think anyone cared about anybody else in this whole situation.
Oh, God, no.
It's this match fell so goddamn flat. The 3D graphics, we mentioned it yesterday, they were awful both nights. That from the Solo Cup graphic, did you notice that they still dropped down the Solo Cups, but they didn't drop them down on the audience so nobody could get them?
Because they don't want people to grab Solo Cups.
Because they don't think through any of these things. At least you got JBL dollars. You know, it's at least if you're going to rain something down, just let the audience have it. At least they could say, oh, I got a Solo Cup at WrestleMania or something like that. People could use that. Sell it on eBay for 44 cents. You can't...
Context.
Yeah. I suppose.
No. Laying down stuff on the audience.
Yeah.
Anyways. Let's get away from sexual miscommunications.
Yeah. This match was just a lot of guys doing spots in contrived ways and waiting to catch each other for different flying moves. Yeah. I mean, we got more toe dubs from Riddle, so thank God for that. You know what? Triple H left his boots in the middle of the ring. Maybe Riddle should have put some on. Maybe he'll get that talent that Triple H had for storytelling and match psychology. Yeah, well, he was never... They said all of these wrestlers up to fail when they make these multi-man matches because these multi-man matches are always moves. It deteriorated within 90 seconds. There were 2 dives all night yesterday. There were 2 in this match within the first 2 minutes. Did we get a collar and elbow tie-up? Spoilers, no we didn't. I know it's a trend. Yeah, oh, it's going to be a hell of a trend. And I don't really have much to say about this match. I didn't really care, obviously. You know me in multi-man matches. They just don't get along.
Did anyone look good?
Orton did, because Orton always looks good. But
he's the only one that looked good.
Yeah, ever. Orton got a good hot tag, and I will give credit to Montez Ford. He fed well for Orton during the comeback. Then we get the announce table spot in the opening.
At least it didn't break the table.
Well, but they tried twice. And they do some RKO teases, and then we get that weird, I forget who it was. Was it Montez Ford right before he's about to do his frog splash, does a random ass crotch chop? I guess an homage to Triple H, but it didn't really connect.
Yes, Montez Ford did the DX Mongolian chop to Chad Gable.
Yeah. And why are they doing this to Chad Gable? This whole shoosh thing, it's just dumb. He can talk. Why aren't you letting him? It's
because Chad Gable is too small.
Yeah, I guess, even though he's got everything that what they would want in an athlete like that. But I guess they just don't want to do that. And
if you want to see a compelling Chad Gable, you should go to ACPW.
Yeah, 1 week from today, well actually 1 week from yesterday, ACPW and NWL are going to show you how to do it right. As our Season 3, Episode 3 show gets taken place. Both of them, I'm very excited to hear how things develop. There have been some major developments going on both shows, so it's going to be really entertaining. And that's something you might actually be able to look forward to in the world of professional wrestling, as opposed to wanting to see less of everybody, which is what this entire show did.
Such as Riddle doing a very contrived top rope RKO to Montez Ford.
Yeah, it popped the crowd because it was RKO's quote unquote out of nowhere, but it started to go long.
Very, very contrively set up.
Yeah. Oh well, this whole match was completely contrived and set up, and it went long. There was a ton of dives, and it ended up being exactly what I expected this match to end up being. When did Orton get juice?
I have no idea.
I couldn't figure out where the spot was.
Maybe he got hit by someone a little bit too hard, which again is the sign of a sloppy worker.
He must have, because it was like, I don't know what the hell happened to his face. And then they do this thing where Skylar, RK Bro win with the double RKO. But let me ask you this. If let's say you and I were in a tag team, and we were wrestling in any sort of tag team match, doesn't really matter what it is, and we ended up losing, and I think getting pinned as well, if I'm not mistaken, would you then want to go up and share a drink with the people who just pinned you and won the titles that you were trying to win?
Probably not.
Or would you be pissed that you lost?
I'd be mad that I lost.
Yeah. So then why the hell do we have the Street Profits coming back in going, oh, well, you guys are kind of funny sometimes. Let's pour a solo cup for everybody. These people, these two individuals, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, they have the most, besides Ronda Rousey, of course, because I have a whole rule named after her, but these two have the most go-away heat with me that I have ever had for anyone. I'd rather have Asuka from 2020 every night, every show, all the time, than have these two ever appear on my television ever again.
Right, because Dawkins does absolutely nothing and Montez Ford does too much.
Yeah, at least Ford does a good frog splash. You can give him that. That's about all. Combined. Between these two asshats. And then they do this thing with Gable Steveson. And, I just hated this. Steveson, they do this shoosh thing with Gable, Chad Gable. so that we have the two Gables in the ring so that everybody, all the smarks, could put a thumb up their ass and giggle. And
Westville, Adam, clap, clap, clap.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That same kind of stuff. Then we get a belly-to-belly from Stevenson, and I just didn't care. The crowd didn't care. And it's just... I hate what... And when we shit on the women's division in this company, look at their tag division. And give me, besides the Usos, and you can't even argue the New Day now because they... Well, we'll get to them. But besides the Usos, name one redeeming quality out of WWE's tag division. There you go.
I got him.
You know, at least you have stars in the women's division. You have nothing in this tag division. Zero. Goose egg. Nada. You were about to give the title to a fat-ass Nakamura and Rick Boogs, the strong man who isn't strong. And I know Vince doesn't like tag teams, but does that mean that it's worth destroying a division the way it is? It is a wasteland in the WWE tag division. At least, to AEW's credit, while we hate the Young Bucks, at least tag team matches and tag team titles somewhat feel more important there. Just barely.
It said something that the Young Bucks are the head tag team that has more promise in WWE.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And you know, this Gable and Otis thing could work if they didn't make it so stupidly cheesy and childish, but they just cannot help themselves. They cannot...
Also, did you know... Well, yeah, they cannot help themselves, but very good thing. Did you notice with Gable speaks that they're very protected because they didn't let him use a microphone? They gave him a very, very easy to do.
Yeah, oh yeah. They were definitely being very protective of him, even though John Laurinaitis cut off the entirety of the point you were making until the very end. But yeah, they were being very careful to tread lightly with Gable Steveson because they probably know things that we would suspect. And if they gave him too much on that show, oh boy, that would have been getting him off on the wrong foot.
Even though he's already on the wrong foot with me because I can tell he's green as hell.
Well, yeah, but, you know, he's got the time to develop. I mean, at least, I think they're putting too much pressure on him to be the next Kurt Angle in a lot of ways, and it's going to take a lot of time. I'm not saying that he's not a natural. We just don't know because all we've seen is a belly-to-belly and him toasting with the Street Profits and RK Bro.
What does Joshua have to say?
Yeah, I was about to say, would you like to hear what our good friend JoshAgeddon had to say? We'll start with the Triple H retirement. Triple H was never one of my favorites, but the business would not be the same without him. A legitimate legend, and I am more than anything else grateful that he's still alive. We almost lost Scott Hall and Triple H within months of each other, which would have been awful. Glad H kicked out at 2.5. Now.
Yeah.
The triple threat. Fuck. let me read quote for quote. Triple threat spot fest tag match we've seen 800 times for the worthless Raw tag belts. Fuck these stupid birds.
I don't find a word that's wrong there.
No, I don't either. I don't either. Fuck these stupid birds that come out of Riddle's toenails. What does it mean? Fuck me. Okay, the Orton snake graphic and the Riddle snake graphic nipping at each other made me chuckle. I won't lie. I hated it. Randy Orton deserved better than this. I'm over everyone in this match except Randy. Well, AT&T Stadium would agree with you there, bud. Fuck these dive spots to the outside. So painfully contrived, the camera so clearly showed everyone getting in the place, and the replays just further exposed it. Fuck this show's formatting, hashtag bad formatting, hashtag don't steal my gimmick. This is the exact same three-way tag they've done on Raw for the past several weeks. Why are we even here? Good question. Shitty and Poopy are the worst part of the match for obvious reasons. And that twisting neckbreaker Dawkins does, also known as the silencer, is a cool move when done by a competent pro wrestler. When Dawkins does it, it looks like shit. Riddle's super RKO was cool, I guess. Why would they waste the moonsault RKO counter on Raw and not do it at Mania? This company is run by brain-dead fucktards. Fuck this match. Next. Do we have to move on to this next match, though?
Yes, we have to get through all of them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. We'll just have to head to the grind. We just got to keep going. It is Bobby Lashley versus Omos, Amos, Anus. I don't really care anymore. And clearly WWE doesn't either. What's the best way out of booking this match, Skylar?
Not doing it.
Exactly. Even to the wrestling's actual favorite uncle, not the one that gives star ratings, but the actual favorite uncle, Jim Cornette, the only other way to end up with somebody winning this match is to not book it. Why? Why? Why did they do this at WrestleMania? What did you think of this match?
I think this may have been the worst wrestling match, I'm putting that in quotation marks, on this entire show. Even Ronda Rousey is not as bad as Omos.
Yeah, and Omos has had time to develop, too. Rousey, at least, I don't like giving outs for Rousey because of, her philosophies on wrestling on principle. Our disdain for Ronda Rousey is clearly documented. But at least you could give her the out of that she went and left for 3 years and had a baby and then came back and was moderately halfway shitty. Omos has been there consistently for the past 2 years. What has he accomplished? How better has he gotten?
Not at all.
None. And this is kind of furthering our point as to what we were saying yesterday too, Sky, is that you cannot learn how to wrestle. You cannot get better at wrestling on the main roster. There's too much else to do. There's too much else to be paying attention to, and there's too little care for the actual wrestling. You can't do it.
The whole thing is that when you're on the main roster, you're not there to learn, you're there to perform. It's the same thing with the Street Profits. And the biggest problem they have is that they're not ready because they're way too green still.
Yeah, there's a laundry list. There's a laundry list of wrestlers you can make that case for. Boogs, Nia Jax. It's endless. The list is endless.
The entire women's division besides Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and the Horsemen.
Yeah, pretty much. There's so many of these. And now, did you notice? I noticed in this match specifically that there were a lot of repeated signs in the audience at AT&T Stadium. Some people bought tickets for both nights, and they bought them in basically the same spot.
I thought if you bought tickets for night one, you get tickets for night two as well.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did that because they knew that they had to. And
yeah, but that's the other thing too, is that if you're going to buy tickets for one night, you might as well buy tickets for both nights. Spend the entire weekend there.
Yeah, if you're going to be a diehard about it and go to WrestleMania, given all of the circumstances that surrounded this 2 nights, you might as well go in and just throw down. So I guess I can't...
Yes, let's be honest. Had we been given the opportunity to, I would have loved to spend the weekend down with you down at Tampa Bay at Raymond James Stadium to watch WrestleMania 37.
That would have been really fun. That would have been fun. To get actually just completely shit-canned and watch a WrestleMania, good, bad, or ugly, that's an experience.
Until Randy Orton and The Fiend showed up with the box, and then we would be disappointed and mad and angry in hell.
Right. Well, yeah, but, neither of us would probably have our wits about us by the time that match came along. So.
Well, that match opened night 2 of last year.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that.
But that's the thing, though, is that Omos and Lashley arguably was worse.
Yeah, we got a Sheiky baby sign that was out in the crowd. Once again, they start doing the packages during the entrances because why not? Hashtag bad formatting. And why is MVP just all of a sudden in the witness protection program?
Because of what happened on Raw afterwards, but let's continue.
Well, okay, well maybe we have an explanation here. I did not have any sort of explanation, so maybe we will get one here that you'll explain to us. Did we get a collar and elbow tie-up?
Of course we fucking didn't.
No, we did not. I couldn't tell whether Omos is heel or babyface, as if it mattered.
He's the heel and Bobby Lashley's the babyface.
Which I guess makes sense because people didn't care about Omos and they do care about Bobby Lashley still.
And Bobby Lashley's still a head smaller than Omos.
Yeah. And he still looked way more impressive. God, you want to talk about miracle workers. Bobby tried his damnedest. He really tried his damnedest. It couldn't work. This match couldn't possibly work. You know,
even the basics of Omos look green and sloppy and uncoordinated.
He looks like a deer in headlights, an immobile deer in headlights just waiting for the car to make impact.
No, but every other 5 minutes, he didn't even do anything heelish. He just started...
Yeah. And you know, they did the...
Sound like Vince McMahon now.
Yeah, I know. Well, we'll get to Vince McMahon. Don't you worry about that, folks. We'll get to Vince McMahon. They do the crossbody into the fireman's carry lift, but it had a blah follow through. You know, because they were trying to showcase the power of Omos, and it just didn't work. And then did you notice when Omos flew Bobby Lashley back or slapped him back so hard when he was on the top turnbuckle that the back of his head slammed against the post?
Again, that's the whole dangerous shit that we were talking about with green workers.
Yeah. And he just had a concussion. He just had a concussion. And now he's going through all of that. It's like, this is... Then...
It's like you're trying to separate his shoulder that Brock Lesnar separated and trying to give him a concussion that he just had.
Yeah. Yeah. And then...
You fucking moron.
They don't understand. Or they just don't care. It's either... It's probably apathy at this point. They just don't care.
No, it's carelessness.
Yeah.
They are careless with the things that they do.
Yeah. No, it's very apparent. It's very apparent. So then Lashley knocks Omos off his feet for the first time, which would have felt important if they had done anything right with Omos, but they didn't. So, and if you want to know how to get somebody off his feet and make it mean something, go back and watch season 1 of ACPW. But this...
Pat on the back.
That's right. That's right. Well, it's better patting myself on the back than giving WWE any credit, because this is really hard to give them any credit. They do a lot. Lashley hits a suplex on Omos, and people did not give a single shit.
Not to mention he almost dropped Omos because Omos didn't really get enough hype for it.
Yeah, which, you know, again, Bobby tried. But this match should not have gone on this long. It took forever to finally get what we actually knew was coming, which was Lashley hits one of those backward spears, which I really don't like. You can't sell a spear to the back properly.
No, it was because Omos didn't turn around to take the spear properly, so Bobby had to spear him in the back and then do the spear to the front. And then also like that spot earlier where Omos tried to hit Bobby in the corner and he missed him completely, so he had to repeat the spot again.
Yeah, which still looks terrible when they did it the second time. And Bobby wins with the spear, and obviously they still care about Bobby, which is probably the one redeeming quality you could take out of this, is that they still think that Bobby is worth something to them.
So much so that they had MVP betray Bobby Lashley on Monday Night Raw to manage Omos.
Oh, no. Why? But at least that means this feud's gonna continue. That means they're having another match.
Yep.
But they really, it doesn't, not that MVP is gonna help Omos at this point. They killed their giant on this show because they pushed him long before he was ready. And it's just, this match was just meh. But at least I'm happy that Bobby is still treated enough like he's something. I find it also interesting, Sky, that last year's opening match was Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. And now both of these individuals end up being, that's night one, by the way. Now both Drew and Bobby end up being the second match, somewhat interesting, on both nights of WrestleMania. They're put in the exact same spot on the card.
And they're both two-time WWE champions that WWE refuses to use.
And they both won, and they both did things that have never happened before. So, you want to talk about a feud that might actually be decent to continue at some point, but let's not give them any good ideas to ruin.
Well, why don't Joshua talk to us and he can tell us his ideas?
Yeah, the bottom line is they shouldn't have booked this match. There was no reason to have this match. And the fact that they're going to have another match, which I guarantee you I will not be watching, is just a sign that they just have completely just set sail on any semblance of this show being any good at all. JoshAgeddon's notes, Bobby Lashley versus Black Giant Gonzalez, which is true. They can't actually be serious about this. Face palms, sighs, weeps, and dies. The only reason why Ass has a job is because of Vinnie Mac's insatiable desire to be ass-fucked by a man either larger than him or pumped up with more life-shortening roids than him. Once again, we'll get to Vince later. Lashley deserved better. Keep account of how many times I say so-and-so deserves better. We gotta be up to like 5 or 6 now, including night 1. This is garbage. Ass looks like he has no clue what is right, left, up, or down. Bobby Lashley having to lead a match is hilarious and depressing, and I imagine leading Ass is similar to leading a blind man with epilepsy through a china shop covered in landmines. And we lost Sky briefly, but he's back. Welcome back.
Sorry, I just had to take a moment and just cry to myself about the people who deserve better on this show.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of them. Oh my god, dude. Shitface almost killed Lashley with that corner slam. We can now add unsafe to the list alongside devoid of charisma and utter dog shit. And Lashley just got back too. Fuck. What the fuck was that kidney spear? I'm guessing Shitface didn't turn around fast enough because he's less coordinated than I am. This match was fucking terrible, but at least Lashley won. He still deserves better though. This show is rough to sit through so far. If only you knew, you poor bastard. And boy, only if you knew. But before we get to what I almost made me shut the show off entirely, did you notice that they did the package of the Make-A-Wish Foundation and every single person who was making the wish were heels?
Yes.
They had Damian Priest, they had Nikki Ash, and then they had the ACPW World Champion Titus O'Neil, which was the highlight of the show for me. Seeing my boy, because I love me some Titus O'Neil.
That's the only thing he's done for WWE.
I know.
Show up randomly at WrestleMania.
You want to talk about people who deserve better? Titus O'Neil deserves better. Because he ain't Little John, ho.
Whoa.
But that's just a fun callback to when Titus O'Neil and Hulk Hogan, one of the craziest pairings of hosts in WrestleMania history, dressed up as pirates for some reason.
Because Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium.
That's right. So now, now Skylar, you can tell me whether you did or not, but in the same vein of me not watching Ronda Rousey because of the Rousey rule, you had said to me prior to us watching this WrestleMania that you were going to skip this upcoming match. Did you?
Of course I did. Listen, if I had watched this match, I would have been so insulted. I would have agreed with you to never watch WWE again, and I still think after this show.
Yeah.
But there is no way in hell I was going to watch this because I knew what they were going to do.
Well, it was worse than you thought it was. So, allow me to take the reins here, and I really wish I didn't have to do this. But I will begrudgingly inform you on all the bullshit that happened on this program. It is Johnny Knoxville.
It can't be that bad, though.
Oh, you say this. But think of the worst qualities of AEW matches and then add a budget. That's what you got with this. It is Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. And the package on this show, on this match, set just a weird tone. And they destroyed any ring announcing credibility, just like AEW, because they made all that Johnny Knoxville BS. I forgot what they even said for him. He's like one nut shot shy of being a smart human being. I forget what they even said. But I'm not even going to tell you about... Obviously, they didn't do any sort of wrestling, so I'm not even going to give a collar and elbow tie-up count on this. First thing that happens is a fire extinguisher spot where the fire extinguisher only goes out about for half a second. They don't even do the full thing.
Is yours?
And
no.
Then
that's the thing over there.
Then they bring the toys out, and there was so much bullshit in this show. There was so much bullshit in this match. I don't even know where to go with this. They bring out a cookie sheet. Johnny Knoxville looks like he's got a Dollar Tree superhero costume. Man is in his 50s, by the way. And Sami Zayn is bumping around for Johnny everywhere. And then they have a cookie sheet that I believe it was Knoxville hit on Sami Zayn, to which Byron Saxton very expertly says, those things don't give, while the tray is literally bent in half. I'm going to let that digest, folks. He said, those things don't give, and the tray was bent in half. I'm like, well, clearly they do, because you're obviously not paying any attention. Then Sami Zayn brings out a table of mouse traps. He brings out a table. I'm going to say that again. He brings out a table covered in mouse traps. Sami Zayn starts to do some bumps on Johnny. No one gave a shit. They do it. Sami Zayn then does a suplex onto a table, onto Johnny Knoxville for a 2 count. And that might be the least excited I've ever heard a crowd for a table spot. Ever. We say the table's the most over thing in wrestling. I think that the table might have just been buried in this match.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then Sami Zayn goes to charge Johnny Knoxville into the corner, and Johnny Knoxville pulls out an air horn, and Sami Zayn sells it like a dog whistle. And he just starts selling and bringing out, and I'm like, dear God, this match is actually taking years off my life, and we weren't even close to done. Because coming up next, Sami Zayn is in the corner. He's about to close in on Johnny Knoxville, and out comes Chris Pontius, who strips down and starts dancing in his thong like he does in the Jackass movies. And the crowd popped for Pontius. None of the people in Dallas cheered for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, but they cheered for a naked Chris Pontius. Telling wrestling fans, you're exposing yourselves here. Then Pontius gets thrown out, and Sami Zayn goes to get underneath the ring because he's going to chase Pontius underneath the ring, and out comes Wee Man, who looked like an actual oil barrel that Donkey Kong would throw in Donkey Kong Country. Wee Man goes to throw some punches. Sami Zayn's all upset. Sami Zayn goes to lean over to get Wee Man, and Wee Man lifts him up and body slams him. Sami Zayn had to lean down, lower himself down so that Wee Man could get him up. The first time a body slam had to go lower before it went higher. But at least Wee Man got the big pop. Wee Man was the most over part of this whole thing because little people are funny. Right?
Hornswoggle says yes. He made a whole career out of it.
That's right. So this is, I would take Marco's stunt over this. That's saying something. This was so cringe. Then Sami Zayn starts getting back control. He goes up to the top rope. He's straddling the top rope, and somehow Johnny Knoxville takes a button, holds it up into the air, and presses the button, and Pyro shoots out of the corner of the ring. Where in the absolute country fried titty fuck did Johnny Knoxville get control of the Pyro? Then it got worse.
I'm laughing not because it's funny, but because of how stupid it is.
It got worse. It actually got worse. Then when Sami Zayn fell off the ropes after he got burned by the Pyro, out comes a bowling ball. And Al Snow would like to file a grievance with the state of Texas for gimmick infringement because we got a bowling ball to the balls. And Sami Zayn curdles over and sells because he's selling for all this thing. And at this point I wrote, fuck, this is worse than AEW. This is worse than anything that AEW has ever produced, including that barbed wire deathmatch fiasco, exploding barb, whatever the fuck it was. This was worse than that.
It couldn't possibly get worse.
Oh, well, you say this. But then Johnny Knoxville gets a taser and tases Sami Zayn's balls. And and the ball taser goes in, Sami Zayn falls on the outside onto the mousetrap table. And then mercifully, we get to the finish, the coup de grace of this whole thing. Johnny Knoxville and the rest of the jackasses pull out a gigantic mousetrap. And larger than the tables, mind you, and bring it into the ring. And they line up Sami Zayn like they're going to latch it down on Sami Zayn, but Knoxville can't figure out how to unlatch it. And when he does, it hits Knoxville in the back of the head. So he has to pull it back and re-spring it down, which had no effect, and it didn't even hit Sami hard. And because Sami was trapped in the giant mousetrap, Knoxville covered him. 1, 2, 3. Sami Zayn is fucking dead.
Dead to you and dead to me and dead to everybody.
He's gone. He's done. Sami Zayn, how do I put this? I refuse to watch Ronda Rousey matches because she disrespects the wrestling business by what she says and how she conducts herself in the media and how she treats the wrestling business. I will never watch a Sami Zayn wrestling match again because he does not give a fuck whether he looks like a complete and utter buffoon and makes a complete and utter mockery of the wrestling business, which he spent a lot of time getting better at not doing. You have undone all of that, Sami Zayn. You might as well put the mask back on and get your ass out to AEW. So you can go play with your little friends, go play tickle taint and stick a thumb up all their asses, and they'll do the same for you to get the same amount of paycheck. But this is not the place. This is not the area. Go sell meat out of a truck in Minneapolis. I don't even care what you do, but I promise you, so long as I live, I will never watch a Sami Zayn match again. I will never watch a segment. I will never watch a promo. I will watch nothing that this human being is involved in because this was more offensive than anything I have ever seen in professional wrestling, period. And if Brock and Roman weren't on this show, this would have been the end of my night.
Pretty much. I don't have much to add on to this, except for the fact that had I watched this, I would have been forced to write off Sami Zayn from NWL.
Yeah, well, you might have to still.
but that's the sad part, is that, again, Sami Zayn, when he wrestled that match against Nakamura that we watched, we loved it. We loved Sami Zayn as a wrestler. He was a great babyface. And he's been doing good heel work as a conniving, controlling, scaredy cat heel.
Conspiratorial chicken shit, yeah.
It's like he could be a great babyface or great heel in your mid-card / main event from time to time. But now he's a joke, and he's allowed himself to be a joke, which is the worst part.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'll say this. Nothing that Vince Russo has ever booked was worse than this. Nothing. I don't care what it is.
Says hello.
Yeah, Katie Vick. I'd rewatch the Katie Vick feud with Triple H fucking a corpse at an actual funeral home and saying, "Oh look, I fucked your brains out," and throw it against the wall. I'd watch that over this. That's how bad this was. That's how utterly disgusting this was. And you know what's funny though about this is I have yet to see somebody like this match.
No one would.
No one. Not even the most diehard of diehards of WWE or AEW, or all the people who were like, "Oh, well, it's all just a bunch of bullshit now, so who cares?" Nobody liked this. And speaking of nobodies who disliked this, would you like to hear what JoshAgeddon had to say?
Yes, although I'm sure he's going to be even worse than what you said.
Well, here we go. God-awful Johnny Knoxville horseshit. Now, up to now, JoshAgeddon has been writing bullet points for each of his individual thoughts. Not this match. This match is one gigantic blurb, which tells me that he got angrier and angrier the more he wrote, to where he just was not even bothering. So, let me read to you this paragraph. Where in the fuck do I begin with this? Literally everything about this is the absolute worst. And for the record, fuck Jackass. Now, before I continue, I actually don't hate Jackass, but leave it out of my wrestling. He and Sami Zayn should not have ever been in this feud. Ever. This should not have been a 3-month-long feud with Sami Zayn. Let the Jackasses be the Jackasses and let that lowbrow entertainment draw the money that it draws. I don't care. But leave it out of my professional wrestling. People who are involved with or enjoy Jackass are why people think Americans are fucking stupid, because we are. Fuck this country for allowing stupid shit like Jackass to exist and a talentless waste of sperm like Knoxville to become famous. Imagine fucking a girl and 9 months later you find out that fucking Johnny Knoxville is your progeny. Good use of the word, I'll give him that. I'd cut my dick off and perform multiple exorcisms on it so such malevolent stupidity would never again be allowed to walk this hellhole we call Earth. We all this is fun. We all have a part to blame in this, I believe. And also, I'm going to quote Snitsky here. That wasn't my fault. That match wasn't my fault. That wasn't Skylar's fault. And also, fuck Sami Zayn for being a nutless bitch and agreeing to this farce. If someone walked in on me watching this, I'd be beyond embarrassed. I'd rather my grandmother walk in on me jerking to my favorite Court-Martail podcast episodes, which he definitely does, by the way. Like, comment, and... I like how he put in parentheses, like, comment, and subscribe. What a time for that plug. Than anyone walk in on me watching this failed abortion. This is modern-day WCW 2000, which was better than this, and this company deserves to go bankrupt and everyone working for them to become unemployed. Negative 100 stars. Burn this goddamn company to the ground.
But Sean, the show possibly couldn't get worse.
Well, the next match, the next thing I have in my notes is, and we move on from that to this. I am in hell. It is the 8-women Fatal 4-Way Women's Tag Team Championship. I don't even remember what the fucking teams were. It's
Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan versus Queen Natalya and Queen Shayna Baszler versus Queen Zelina Vega. And
they're all queens. Everyone's a queen. It's Queen Ripley, Queen Morgan, Queen Banks, Queen Naomi, Queen Shayna, Queen Natalya, Queen Zelina, Queen Carmella, and Corey Graves jacking off in a lean cuisine. This was exactly what I expected it to be. Another.
This is an AEW women's tag team match.
Yeah, a sloppy, a spot fest, but way sloppier. At least the Young Bucks kind of land their moves. So what? Let me ask you this. Sasha got a Corvette. That was cool. It didn't have hydraulics on it, which I expected.
Lambo.
But
Lambo.
Well, okay. Well, regardless, she got a really nice car. If she had hydraulics on it, seeing how we're on the let's just bury Eddie's name forever thing, I'm surprised they didn't do that actually.
They showed restraint with Eddie today.
Yeah, today. Maybe not tomorrow, but today. So Liv Morgan is a kitty dominatrix?
Basically.
And Rhea Ripley, even when she's got the Donnie Darko mask, still looks like a goddamn star. And there's no reason that Rhea Ripley should be involved in this Drek.
Get her on the card.
There is no reason she should be involved in this Drek. Shayna Baszler's got new music, and it sounded awful. And you remember when she and Natalya were wrestling against each other last year?
Yeah.
Good times. Good times. And then Nia Jax left, and Tamina's Tamina. So, and nobody's meaner than Tamina. And the first thing I wrote was, I already hate this, and they haven't even started yet.
Well, here's my question. Did they do a collar and elbow tie-up?
No, but I'll give them credit. A Greco-Roman knuckle lock is sufficient enough for me to be like, all right, fine. Fair enough.
Now here's the real test. Was it better than John Moxley's Greco-Roman Greco-Roman knuckle lock?
Well, they actually looked like they were struggling on it a little bit. So yeah, I would say so. I would say it was a little bit better than John Moxley pretending to be in a Roman knuckle lock. And this just evolved. This immediately, like, why even bother? And then the referee, after everybody discombobulated, then starts trying to enforce rules. Like, who cares at this point? And then Naomi gets a tag, and instead of Zelina trying to get back in to win the match, just hits a moonsault on people on the outside. There's only really one spot of any interest here. Can you guess which one I'm talking about?
I'm gonna joke and say no.
It's the double Tower of Doom. The thing was, it was Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, because what happened was, for those of you who didn't watch this, good on you. But for those of you who didn't watch this, they start to do where two teams have got one woman in a double suplex. Rhea Ripley goes to one corner, Liv Morgan goes to the other corner to do the powerbomb part of the Tower of Doom. Rhea Ripley's looked believable. The other one was Liv Morgan.
I mean, it's Liv Morgan. What do you expect?
Yeah, garbage.
She is where she is because she's hot.
And that's it. There's a reason that I group her very much into her bestie CJ Perry's category. Really hot.
Are they best friends?
Yeah, I would say they're pretty close to best friends.
Oh, no.
Well, all it really means is that they're really basically cut from the same cloth. They know a couple of moves that they perform sloppily, and they take really nice ass photos on Instagram. That's it. Then Spotfest, whatever Carmella was wearing with the weird facial covering for the mask, she looked more like Mr. Wrestling 3 than Russo did.
She looks like Mr. Wrestling 3 bedazzled, losing all of his muscle mass and self-respect.
Yeah. Well, Russo didn't have much self-respect, so that's not that far of a reach.
For the love of fucking God, can we get Corey Graves off of commentary whenever he has to do a Carmella match? I hate this new gimmick.
My hope is that there have been whispers that Corey Graves is training for an in-ring return. I genuinely hope that he's able to do it, so I never have to hear him on the commentary table ever again.
I mean, if you're going to go for it, at least have him be like a manager to Carmella, so that way I can hate it on purpose.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't even hate that. If you're going to be insufferable, let there be a purpose for it. The fact that they repaired him and Byron, those two squabbling against each other, and poor Jimmy Smith, who's just trying to be the straight man in this whole thing. And of course, we get Byron, we get our first and actually only of the show, and I got to give credit for that. Byron says the great 6-word sentence that every single match that goes longer than 2 minutes always involves in. So they've got to be thinking to themselves, what do I have to do?
I thought you were going to say that ring apron is the hardest part of the ring.
That's the second most used phrase. That's used more in AEW now than it is in WWE. But they do this the end of this was Naomi and Sasha did a facebuster codebreaker combo and they win, and I couldn't give a single fuck. Barf.
The best part is that this is Sasha Banks' first win at WrestleMania.
1-7.
She broke the streak.
And actually, there were 2 streaks that were broken on over this weekend. I didn't realize this as well, but also this was the first Drew McIntyre beating Baron Corbin was Baron Corbin's first Mania loss. So,
oh my God! So Baron Corbin not only lost the fact that his finisher was not a kick-out instinct win, but also the fact that he's never been... Oh, my God.
Yeah, lost his winning streak, too. At least it's somebody like Drew McIntyre, right? At least it's somebody like Drew.
Well, it could have been more than just a filler mid-card feud.
It's just... Well...
It could have at least been for, like, the Intercontinental Championship. I don't care what Ricochet's doing right now.
I would have taken Happy Corbin and Drew McIntyre on this show. That would have been a breath of fresh air in comparison. But... Oh... This was the most exciting part of this match was watching Ezekiel Elliott and Micah Parsons at ringside afterwards. And then neither of them got cheered. Did you notice?
Neither of them were going to be cheered.
I know. We're in Dallas, and they've got the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders and 2 Dallas Cowboys, and none of Dallas gave a fuck. Because this is not a football watching audience.
And even if it is, the Dallas Cowboys did so badly in the playoffs, no one was going to cheer for them.
Yeah, and also getting rid of... Well, let's not get into that. We'll get into that on a different channel. Wink. But would you like to hear what Mr. Geddon had to say about this match?
Sure.
That was it. That's all I had to say. Bless you. He just sneezed. That was the whole thing.
Keep blessing me.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, because you might have to read. We have to read you your last rites before this is over. The obligatory shitty women's match. In a non-woke, rational world, 75% of the people in this stupid 4-way tag would not be in any professional wrestling company. Don't disagree with that. Good God, this has the exact same feel and structure as the stupid 3-way tag from earlier, except the work rate is 1,000 times shittier. Fuck everyone in this. Fuck everyone in this match. I'm over Rhea, I'm over Shayna, and I've been over Sasha since 2016. Everyone else in this match are the usual suspects when it comes to my rants about the shitty women's division. It's not Rhea's fault, and it's not Shayna's fault. It's the presentation. And you know that. Sasha's first Mania win, and it was pinning Carmella to win belts more worthless than the 24/7 strap. Rejoice. I remember an interview where Sasha cried about people calling women's matches the bathroom break match. Well, Sasha, congratulations on having a career full of bathroom break matches. Also, you suck and you're not anywhere close to the level of Eddie Guerrero, and you are the least interesting and talented of the 4 horsewomen. And that includes Ric Flair's robot daughter. We are 0 for 4 right now. Fuck this show. At least. Remember when Sasha main evented night 1 of WrestleMania last year?
Yeah.
Remember how that match actually was pretty decent?
Yeah.
Look how far we've come. Sasha Banks, I knew you'd come.
No. Get that motherfucker out of here.
I bet that's what Ryan Ward says to her when she enters the bedroom. Hey-oh! Now. Let's move on.
What the fuck was that?
Let's move on.
Please.
Let's move on to this match. The closest thing to a good match on this show. Edge versus AJ Styles. What did you think?
There are so many rants I'm planning on going on this match.
We got time.
No, this was a dream match. WWE has done a piss poor job with the number of wrestlers they have on this show that don't feel important.
Yeah.
And the lack of interesting and quality matches they could put on. This legitimately is one of the last dream matches WWE could have produced. The problem is that we got this match 2 years too late, with both guys at their most, arguably their most uninteresting and their most non-importantness. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm using it.
We'll give you pass this time.
And gave us a match that could have been part of a feud. WWE's booking sucks because this should be a feud and a match and a storyline that we will be talking about 20 years from now as being one of the best of all time. And it's just a filler match on a Mania that sucked.
This should have felt far more important than it did. And, you know, they probably would have pulled the trigger on this match in 2020 if Edge didn't tear his tricep. You know, that.
Well, also, if Edge didn't separate AJ's shoulder leading to that Mania.
Right. Oh, yeah. So they both had issues with this. The thing was, the thing about this feud made no sense. This feud basically is summed up with this sentence: I need to remind you how great you are by smashing your brain with these 2 chairs.
Think about this for a second. Edge, the feud before this was involved with The Miz because his name got dropped on AEW television during the CM Punk and MJF feud during one promo. And they had to waste Edge's time on this match when you could have properly built this.
And now, his wife was more important than Edge, mind you.
Sean, allow me to paint a picture if you would, please.
Please, take that paintbrush and slam that paint against that canvas.
Okay, let's go back to the Royal Rumble. We're not doing the mixed tag match. We're just having Edge and The Miz both in the Rumble, right?
Correct.
And let's have Edge eliminate The Miz and get his revenge on The Miz and end that storyline, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's have AJ and Edge be in the Rumble. AJ eliminates Edge, and Edge, for some reason, snaps, attacks AJ Styles, brutalizes him, and eliminates him from the Royal Rumble.
I'm with you.
Then we can talk about how Edge's psyche has snapped, how he wants to be known for greatness, and how he wants to become the best. And AJ is a roadblock to that. And AJ turns face saying, that he's always been a hard worker. He's always been doing his own thing. I am phenomenal, AJ Styles. I know I don't have much time left, but I want to be on the mountaintop one more time. And you took that away from me, Edge. So I'm going to devastate you at WrestleMania.
I'm with you.
There. I have sold you. I've sold you on this match, right?
90 seconds. That's how long it took you to make a better feud than they made in the 2.5 months that they tried to build this feud.
Exactly. And if you wanted to do the finish that you did for this match, that's perfectly fine, because then it could have been a continuation of this feud past Mania, which they're going to do, I imagine.
I would hope so. I would really hope so after they did this match and the way it ended.
But basically, the feud that I just described, you would have given a reason for why Edge was bad, and you would have had more time to flesh out his character, so that when someone became a follower of his beliefs, it would have felt more natural than just, and here comes Damian Priest.
Yeah, who showed up like a random Elder Scrolls NPC, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But this whole judgment...
It's just sad, because this could have been Big Fight Field. AJ was bleeding on the way to the ring, accidentally, because he ran into the sign of WrestleMania.
Any way you can get the juice. I mean, they don't allow you to bleed, so you hit the corner of the star, all right, fine. But...
And then, yeah, but again, it was unintentionally awesome watching AJ have that blood. And then this entrance by Edge was badass.
It was. And this is a different vibe for Edge, and I like that they want to add layers to his gimmick. But this gimmick makes no sense.
Him new entrance theme music. They gave him new entrance theme music, so that way it's a different character for him to play.
Yes, it's a new gimmick for him to live through. And
it's something.
Yeah. Which I like. I like development. I love having this layering of gimmick and having people develop over time. I think this I'm the judge gimmick is kind of weird. But I'm cool with it. I'm like, all right, let's just see where this goes. Maybe it'll develop.
And again, it's one of those things where had you had started this at the Rumble, maybe have them interact in the chamber as well, and give them the time to develop Edge's character, it would have made more sense.
Yeah. But because they rushed pretty much everything with this show.
Imagine Edge doing these promos saying, I am the judge, the jury, and the executioner, or the executioner.
Yeah. The fact that this gimmick is literally, the easiness of this gimmick is literally staring them right in front of their faces. And they just are looking upwards, or their heads are so far into the damn sand. It's sad. It's genuinely sad. Because these are lobs. These are layups. And they can't sink layups. And Byron Saxton can't say omnipotence, which was kind of funny. We finally got a call.
It is a very difficult word to say.
True, fair. We finally did get a collar and elbow tie-up. It took 5 matches both nights to finally get one. And I'll give you a spoiler, folks. This was the last on the show. 1.
And you also made a discovery when you were doing the count for the matches.
Yeah, we were 3 for 16. Keep that number in mind. It's going to come up later. And it was already the main event of night 1. Coincidence? I think not.
What a deep cut.
I know. Then they do... We mentioned how the 450 was dead. AJ missed the 450. But honestly, the match itself was fine. It was fine. It wasn't set the world on fire. It wasn't throw the babies into the air. It was fine. They trapped, they did the trapping the arm on the cover. I think that was Edge who did that. I really appreciated the Scott Norton shoulder breaker, because we haven't seen one of those in forever. Edge started working the ribs. AJ did the slide, but he hit head first on the turnbuckle. Edge did a better STF than John Cena.
Was it better, though?
Yes. It looked somewhat like it was laid in. Somewhat. John's does not. John's looks like he's literally just like walrusing on top of his opponent. And
that sounds very gross now that I think about it.
yeah, and the crowd really just wasn't into this. That was the saddest part. The match was slow and methodical, which is fine. I was a little surprised that Corey called the crossface the label lock, give all things considered.
I mean, they must not see AEW as a threat, or they don't care.
Yeah. Then, well, at this point, WWE was stooping down to AEW's level. So let's just call that what it is. I don't know what I'm hoping I'm wrong about this, but I'm hoping Edge isn't having any sort of like heart issues, because Edge's face started turning purple. And
I mean, Brock Lesnar's face turns purple.
Well, but Brock Lesnar also had heart issues. So it's, it concerns me a little bit. I'm hoping that he's okay in that respect.
But also, we're talking about a 45-year-old man.
Yeah, no, that's true. They did an apron suplex and the crowd did not care. And that partially could be a result of all the garbage that they had been fed prior to this moment. But you would have thought that the crowd would have woken up for these two.
Again, had the story been compelling? Yes. And I'm sure they still respected both guys. But it's not like this had the people's eye.
No, it didn't. Then we get a 450, and of course 2 count, because the 450, just like the Destroyer, doesn't end anything anymore. Ever. And I will say this, AJ always does a picturesque 450, but I liked Bianca's better.
I think it's because Bianca is bigger, and because she's bigger, she has more oomph behind her.
Well, and I also think that Bianca really had no wiggle room as far as where she was when she landed it. Like, she barely got it, but she got it hard, and the impact looked devastating. AJ's done so many of these 450s that it just didn't have the same impact.
Yeah, that's true.
Then we get a Styles Clash for a 2 count, and it started to go long. And just as I wrote that down, seemingly out of nowhere, Damian Priest just is all of a sudden on the side of the ring. And Priest, I forget what Priest even did, but it led to a distraction for Styles, and then AJ, and then they took your finish.
Which one?
They took the finish of the one you called like 4 days before the show actually happened, where AJ Styles goes to hit the phenomenal forearm, and instead we got a spear. 1, 2, 3.
Because of course it does.
Yeah. I mean, anyone within a mile away or had watched either of these two guys for 15 seconds could have known that this was the finish that was coming up. It looked good. But
yeah, but again, this is a feud that should be more important than it is. Given a story that is compelling, this could have been either a marquee match of Mania. It may have even main evented a WrestleMania.
Yeah. It could have. It could have had...
Imagine last year... Imagine if Edge had won the Rumble last year and challenged AJ Styles. That could have been, at the very least, a co-main event.
Yeah. Totally. But instead, we got... This match just sadly just didn't live up to the hype, and then the angle afterward just came out of nowhere. It was just so random.
Because again, it's poorly explained. Now, you want to hear the development on Raw and the scuttlebutt thereafter.
I'm afraid.
So, of course, Edge welcomes Damian Priest to his light.
Yeah.
And apparently this is the start of a stable for Edge of Gothic warriors. And Guess who's one of the Warriors that they discussed joining the stable?
Is it Gangrel?
No, obviously it's not going to be Gangrel.
Sad.
Again, Gothic Warriors.
Rhea Ripley?
Yep.
You know what? If that gets her out of that horse shit that she was in on this show, let's see where it goes. Let's see where it goes.
I don't mind the idea of Edge leading a stable of people who have Gothic ties or a miscellaneous interest. It's more interesting than the House of Black, okay?
Yes. Agreed.
In fact, honestly, had Aleister Black stayed around, a stable of Edge, Damian Priest, Aleister Black, and Rhea Ripley would be awesome.
Badass. I just don't trust them to do right by any of those people.
I feel like because Edge is the head of that stable, they will, because they respect Edge enough to let him do his own thing.
Well, they'll respect Edge to let him do his own thing. But we'll see what happens with Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest, who could very easily just end up being Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. You could decide for yourself which one of those two is the female in that situation.
It has. Well, it can't. I was going to say it was going to be the woo 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 guy, but he's become Matt Cardona and he drinks blood.
And it's the NWA champion. So, who the hell knows?
So it become the Kurt Hawkins. Okay, got it.
That's right. Would you like to hear what JoshAgeddon had to say?
I'm scared to hear what JoshAgeddon had to say.
All right, Edge versus AJ Styles. This is the first headline that he's actually written the two participants' names on it. So that's reassuring. Finally, two actual wrestlers at WrestleMania. AJ Styles pulling a Goldberg and being busted open before the match starts. Edge's entrance is so badass. Finally, it feels like WrestleMania only took a goddamn hour and a half. I love the transitions between these two. Very fluid, but also feel like two guys struggling for a dominant position. Edge slowing his shit down a touch is perfect for the new evil character he's running with. Don't disagree with that. This is really the one that we've been discussing. If these two had a proper build, this would have been such a money match. I mean, I'm enjoying it thus far, but it could have been so much more. And that's really the biggest problem with this match for me, is the lost potential. AJ's selling of the blocked 450 was absolutely perfect. I love the chemistry between these two. And all of a sudden, a wild Damian Priest appeared. Seriously though, WTF. What a random fuck finish. This was having a competitive, fun, good match on Universe Mode on WWE 2K, and then suddenly a CPU character interrupts because the game said so. Accurate. Very accurate. Good match that is easily the best thing on this awful show so far, but the finish was definitely a thumbs down. And I'll tell you folks, this was probably the peak that wasn't Triple H retiring.
And again, it's sad that this is the peak.
Yeah, it really is.
Because we went from one valley to a peak to another valley.
Yeah. Well, at least we didn't have to stay in this one for very long. It is Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland with Pete Dunne. I am not calling him Butch. With Pete Dunne.
I forgot this match was on the card.
On ringside. That's right. This was the match that was bumped from night 1, came in the night 2, and was there for not even a cup of coffee.
Again? Oh my God.
Yeah. And because Pat McAfee was preparing for his match, we got the wonderful commentary team of Michael Cole and Byron Saxton.
At least it wasn't Corey Graves.
Oh no, we got that duo later. Don't you worry about that. We got that duo later. Then they do the entrance, and they do another package in the middle of the entrance. I'm over the gimmick of this whole thing of Sheamus, Holland, and Butch, which is people from the UK who are apparently from 1889 and just looking for a fight. This, they obviously
don't like watching people in bowler caps wrestle.
The only thing that was interesting about this match was Pete Dunne pretending he was Scrappy fucking Doo. This whole thing was worthless. This was a bad Raw match that lasted 5 seconds. I liked Sheamus's 648 Snickers commercials over this match. The amount of, if you put all of the Sheamus commercials on WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday end to end, they lasted longer than this whole segment.
Because Sheamus knew he wasn't going to get that much screen time.
Yeah. And this was, I have nothing else to say about this. Do you?
If Big E didn't get his neck broken, this would have been a 6-man tag.
And who knows whether it would have happened here. Because it's Ridge Holland, and I don't trust that dude.
Would have been better.
Yeah. Well, it would have hushed the crowd, that's for sure. But the crowd was already hushed enough as it is with how horrible this show was. And
my God, just imagine if Ridge Holland had suplexed Big E and broke his neck in the middle of Mania.
Yeah. That would have, it would have changed the tone of things. That's for sure.
Oh my God.
But
again, I don't hate the New Day, but I'm over them because at this point they're not changing their characters. They're not doing anything interesting, and there's no development after 8 years.
Yeah.
Short of a very small span of Kofi Mania and Big E main event stats.
I wouldn't even call Big E's main event status that different at this point, because he was still pretty much New Day Big E, and even Kofi was still New Day Kofi, although Kofi was put into a better position with the people that he wrestled, which still wasn't great.
That Kofi at least got a decent length of time with the belt. Like, he went from Mania in April to basically October. That's not a bad amount of time.
That's not bad. And
Big E only got 3 months.
Yeah, and they both ended the exact same way. Before we continue with this next part, I do have to go back really quickly. Did you notice when they announced the number at WrestleMania that the number they announced in the stadium was different than the graphic? They are bullshitting hard on the attendance figures of this show. There is no way they packed 70,000 people into that stadium either night.
I personally, I think that's just a Vince Dunn fuck up.
Yeah, well, there were plenty of them on the show. That's for sure. But then we bring the Hall of Famers out, and I'll read what John, well, here, I'll really read this briefly because there's almost nothing here. JoshAgeddon's notes for that match. Pointless tag match with Sheamus and the New Day. Didn't even mention anybody else. The title is the description of this segment. When Michael Cole said, "And this guy's name is Butch," I screamed bullshit very loudly and angrily at my TV. The show is getting to me and I need to calm down. Pete Dunne deserves better. That's it. That's all I wrote. Now, if you thought that the Triple H retirement was the only retirement on this show, oh no. Because out come the Hall of Famers again, and Taker comes out to Dallas, and this time you know that this is probably it. Because he milked this a little bit longer than he did night one. Did you notice?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that Taker got this moment. Because I was really unhappy with Survivor Series 2020 being the goodbye. This felt like what I wanted for Undertaker then. Was this moment of truly getting in, absorbing the crowd, you know, saying his final goodbye and walking off into the sunset like he deserves to. So that was nice.
Yep, again, it's ironic that the last pieces of professional wrestling walked out the door today.
Oh, yeah. This show was the show. Well, we'll talk about it when we sum it up, because I've got I've got a whole bunch of thoughts about that on this in that respect. Now we come to the biggest roller coaster of this show. It had some of the highest points, and it had some of the lowest points. Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. What did you think? Just for this part. We won't get into the rest of this. We'll do this sequentially.
Again, of the different celebrities that have been involved with WWE over the years, personally, I think Pat McAfee is the best of them. Because
agreed.
He's a fan of professional wrestling. He's still in athletically good shape, but most importantly, he learned the business and he learned how to do things in the business.
Yeah, they had footage of Rip Rogers training him in the Indianapolis barn. That's pretty cool. I was like, hey, Rip Rogers. And that
still a better developmental system than NXT.
Yeah. Can't change your mind on that one, because clearly Pat McAfee walked into NXT and did better than anyone else in NXT. And Pat, looked good. I liked Seven Nation for his entrance. Got the crowd into it. The crowd woke up for Pat. But before Pat shows up, here comes Vince. You knew he was going to be there, right? You knew he was going to be there. It's funny that the only McMahon we didn't get was Shane because of the calamity of the Rumble.
Had Shane not been involved in the stupid shit at the Rumble and just been a minimal presence there, he would have wrestled against either Seth Rollins or Bobby Lashley.
Or Pat McAfee. Do you imagine Shane and McAfee? Pat McAfee probably could have brought a good match out of Shane. I bet he would have.
That should have been now that I think that should have been the match that we should have gotten. I mean, again, Austin Theory is not bad, but realistically, Shane working for Vince would fit his gimmick.
Yeah.
Shameless plug to the Shane-O-Mania episode we did.
Yeah, I mean, all in all, I actually really like Austin Theory. I think that he's just, unfortunately, put into positions that make him look like an absolute goon. And
except for the part where Vince McMahon said that he is a future Universal Champion.
Well, we'll see about that. He's good.
I mean, he wasn't wrong about Drew eventually.
Eventually, but is it going to take 15 years to get Austin Theory to that level? He's young enough. He's only 24 or something. But we'll have to watch Austin Theory, because there's definitely potential there with him.
They definitely see potential in Austin Theory because they wouldn't let someone green wrestle against Pat McAfee.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And the first thing I noticed was that the punches in this match were better than any that we had seen up to this point.
Well, I mean, given the people involved, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, this match woke the crowd up. It really did. There was more passion in Michael Cole's voice for this match than there has been for anything out of Michael Cole in the past 15 years.
I would say WrestleMania 30 and the Daniel Bryan storyline. But yeah, the thing about it is that Pat McAfee and Michael Cole...
And the heist of the century.
And the heist of the century. But the thing about it is that Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, they have a great friendship. So when Michael Cole was rooting for Pat McAfee, he really was rooting for him.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really like when Michael's passionate. My biggest complaint with Michael Cole is that he just sounds lifeless all the time.
Monotone Cole.
Yeah. But this was different. If this Michael Cole were more prevalent in professional wrestling, I'd like him a lot more. That's why he and Taz worked so well together.
It's just kind of difficult because, again, age. It happens to the great ones. It happens to Jerry the King Lawler. It happened to JR.
And also
to Michael Cole. Michael Cole, for a time, was actually a good play-by-play announcer in the 90s and 2000s and into the early teens. But now he is too old to call the action except for very few sparks like this one.
And also, Vince couldn't rattle off a whole bunch of bullshit into his ear because he's not a gorilla. He's out there. So Michael Cole had probably a few more liberties.
I would love it if Vince McMahon was yelling at Michael Cole at the same time as he was watching the match.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
Basically been like Bayley's gimmick.
Yeah. Except Bayley would do that so much better than the Vince of now, at least. I miss Bayley. I still miss Bayley. Come back. We need you.
Come back, Bayley. The women's division needs you.
We need you. We really do. A beautiful touch. I loved when McAfee just kept beating up Theory at the commentary table and put the headset back on. Like when The Rock did it, but because he's a commentator, he's like, I'm going to commentate as I beat this guy up. Loved that. Loved that. Pat McAfee, my God, man, does this guy get it or does he get it?
He gets it. And again, it's one of those things where when they have the celebrities that get it, you get the results like Pat McAfee or Logan Paul. Even if they're not perfect, I still like Bad Bunny enough because he at least put effort into it, unlike a certain rowdy person.
Yeah, but it shouldn't be up to the celebrities to provide the best professional wrestling part of WrestleMania. It shouldn't be up to people not in the business to do the business better than the people in the fucking business.
Well, the problem is that we don't have wrestlers, we have sports entertainers.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I don't know whether you heard the quote from Logan Paul after WrestleMania. His quote was, you know what? I'm actually quite good at this. Because he's such a good heel. And I'm like, man, I hate you. And that's exactly why you did so well. And
then he told The Miz to go fuck off, and he became a babyface.
Well, quote unquote babyface. But
maybe he's a tweener at this point.
Yeah, at least he's something, all right. I love Pat McAfee's jump up superplex. He did it with the Adam Cole match, and it just looks great. It took a little longer to get it set up this time, but I was not complaining at this point. This to me was the best professional wrestling on the whole show. Was just in a vacuum, Pat McAfee and Austin Theory.
Yeah, it was definitely very good professional wrestling from two guys who knew what they were doing and allowed to do what they were doing. Again, Pat McAfee is the best babyface in the business after proving that he's the best heel.
Yep. And
honestly, I want to see Pat McAfee be a champion.
Yeah. I honestly think that if Pat really wanted to and could dedicate the time to do it, I'd love to see him wrestle. I mean, I'm really happy of how protective he is about how frequently he wrestles, but I wouldn't hate seeing Pat wrestle on a more regular basis.
It's one of the things, just like with Brock Lesnar, where when Pat McAfee is wrestling, it feels special.
It matters.
It is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Except when it doesn't.
Except when it ends in a roll-up. And I wouldn't have had a problem with the roll-up, even though it's WrestleMania, because Pat McAfee is technically not the wrestler, and he rolled up the wrestler to catch him with a victory, right? I get it. I get why the roll-up, right? I get it. But why did McAfee have to pull the tights?
I think it's just to be a little bit of like a douche to Austin Theory.
I suppose. But is this feud going to continue? Well, something continued. And this is where the show took a complete and utter nosedive into the grave. And they started pouring the dirt on it. Because out from the grave came Vince McMahon. Because Pat McAfee motions to Vince, I want you. Vince pulled very slowly, takes off his shirt and tie, and reveals the tank top that he wore for every match. And Vince is still ripped. He's just not on as many steroids as he used to be. And he's also 76.
He's not ripped. He looks flabby.
Well, he's about as ripped as a 76-year-old man could be. But a 76-year-old Muppet and they get a referee. And they actually ring the bell.
And all the goodwill that they had built up in the first match with Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory was ruined in the second match, quote unquote.
No, this was an actual match. This was an on-record match. There was a referee, there was a bell ring, there was a finish, there was another bell ring. This was a match. And
how long did this go?
I didn't even care at this point. The first, on my list, on my notes, in all caps, I used 3 lines of loose leaf to write it. Kill me. The crowd died. Just like Vince ought to. This killed my passion for this company. Pat bumped around for a 76-year-old Vince McMahon who could hardly move. Austin Theory got a couple of punches in. At least Michael Cole sounded upset. But I would have rather have done anything else with my time than watch this. Bad clotheslines. They did some garbage. I can't even recall it. I'm traumatized. Like, I'm gonna have to go to therapy to recount and to dig this out of my brain to talk this through. Cause this was the worst. This was arguably worse than Knoxville and Sami Zayn. On principle.
No, Sean. Here's the thing. Don't talk about it. This does not deserve any of our words. This does not deserve any of what we should talk about.
I know. Well,
because they didn't care. They didn't care. They took a shit right in the middle of that ring.
And Vince won. Vince, the 76-year-old owner of this company, beat Pat McAfee, arguably the most promising outside celebrity worker, and I mean worker, and wrestler in this business. And I know that Pat probably had a blast doing all of this. And I don't knock Pat for having fun with this, right? That's not my point.
Again, the problem is that Pat McAfee is too much of a WWE fan and too much of a Vince McMahon fan to say no.
Yeah. And Pat loses to Vince. And they cheer for a little bit. And then here comes the ultimate bailout. This is where WWE as a company tapped out and fully admitted defeat. Because out came Austin. And the crowd, of course, went bananas because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin. And Austin came out
Vince McMahon.
As if we didn't have enough of this in the Attitude Era, as if we didn't have enough of this the night before, where it was actually passable and acceptable to do it, and Austin looked good doing it. And for as much as he could with a 57-year-old guy, for as many complaints as I had about that. But add another 19 years of age, and you've got Vince McMahon. The collective age of Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin is 132. 133, I'm sorry. This is who your main eventers are. WWE. It's not the fact that these two came out and did this. It's the fact that you basically openly admitted, we do not want to build stars. We don't care about building stars. None of our stars matter. What matters is the celebrities. What matters is the nostalgia. And what matters is the sweet, sweet blood money we get. Everybody else can go fuck themselves on this show. That's what this was. Stone Cold Steve Austin had to bail out both nights of WrestleMania 38. Not because they couldn't make new stars, because they didn't want to. And this was their full admission that they have given up trying.
Honestly, do you want to know what's the worst part about this?
What was the worst part of this?
Is this fucking stunner.
Yeah. The worst stunner of all time. To cap it off. The absolute worst.
Sorry, continue.
No, I don't even want to continue. This is the whole thing. This did not make me want to continue. The worst stunner of all time. He stuns Theory. He shares a beer with McAfee. He stuns McAfee. And at least Pat McAfee sold that stunner like a goddamn champ.
Now then, do you want me to paint you a picture and fix this whole thing?
Does it get rid of Stone Cold Steve Austin and Vince McMahon entirely?
No, but it makes it passable.
All right, let's hear it. What do you got?
Let's not even do Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold last night because we didn't need to see that. Let's have Kevin Owens be the proxy instead of Pat McAfee and have him wrestle against Austin Theory. And Vince McMahon does his little shenanigans like he used to do in the Attitude Era. Here comes Stone Cold Steve Austin to a pop to give a stunner to Vince. As this is happening, Kevin Owens gives a stunner to Austin Theory. Kevin Owens wins the match. Vince McMahon gets stunned. Austin and Kevin Owens share a beer, and then Austin stuns Kevin Owens.
That one was a third of the time it took you to do the first picture you painted this show, Sky. This...
I spelled my name right, so fuck you, Joshua.
Yeah, well, John Laurinaitis is getting upset at us, Sky, because you're booking better than they are, and Laurinaitis is really trying to find your location here. But this...
Again, don't do the Austin and Kevin Owens match. You didn't need to do that. You didn't have to have Austin be exposed in a match, quote unquote. Just have him come up, stun McMahon during a match involving Kevin Owens and Austin Theory as two proxies for those guys, and have Kevin Owens give the stunner to Austin Theory in tribute to Austin. They celebrate. Austin gives the stunner to KO because don't ever trust Stone Cold Steve Austin. Beer pops, everything.
See, that would have made too much sense, though, Sky. That's way too logical for WWE. If we're talking,
what does JoshAgeddon have to say about WWE's illogical, logical booking?
Before we get to him, here's my final take on this. I wouldn't have at this point, I've come to terms with Austin and Owens. Fine. If Austin wanted to have this last match, fine. I'm happy for him. He had his last match. He worked the crowd. They popped for it. They did. I don't know why the stunner to Byron happened, but if you're gonna do a match with Austin, do that. That's fine. I don't care about that at this point anymore. I've come to terms with it. Because Owens got to main event of WrestleMania with a guy like Stone Cold, and Stone Cold got to finish off something that he felt he didn't. I'm okay with that. At this point, I'm okay with that. But there's no reason to bring him out a second time. If you want him to stun Vince, have Vince in Owens' corner. Do that then. This just... At this point, there was no need. This was WWE tapping out. That's all it was. It was WWE full-fledged tapping out saying, AEW, do something. Because we're not. Now we'll hear what JoshAgeddon has to say. Pat is more over than anyone else on the show. This is a testament to how great he is and how shit almost everyone else is. Meanwhile, no one gives a shit about Austin Theory. Debatable. This match is so basic, but on a dumpster fire show like this, it stands out. Seriously, everything these two are doing is the most basic stuff you can do, and it's getting over with the crowd. Eat a dick, Tony Khan. Winning via a roll-up is a bit anticlimactic, but whatever. Oh no. Oh God, no. Why? And then bold. Why? Vince... That's a good line. Vince took off his shirt, and I'm now jealous of blind people. His arms used to be muscular, but they look so saggy that I might actually vomit. If this man ever walks too close to an active vacuum cleaner, all of his gross-ass saggy skin will come off in one suck. Jesus Christ, my eyes were not prepared for this. Pat has been bumping for this almost 80-year-old assault on my eyes for 3 minutes now, and it's the actual worst. Wow. Vince motherfucking McMahon pinned Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. I do not have words. I am actually speechless. This is a sin against God, and Satan is once again apologizing. Holy shit, did someone spike my monster earlier? What the fuck am I watching? And now Stone Cold has once again emerged from the nursing home he belongs in. He's not a Stone Cold fan, is JoshAgeddon. And we are getting another rehash of the Attitude Era, the most popular yet most terrible era in wrestling history. Wonderful. Fuck my stupid ass because I deserve it for watching this abomination. In all caps, all bold, the Attitude Era was over 20 years ago, and you stupid motherfuckers, let it fucking die. I hate all of you. Worst, period, WrestleMania, period, ever, period. But we've got one more match. Our main event of the evening. As if we even possibly could care about this match after everything we've seen on the show prior, is the biggest WrestleMania main event of all time, even though it hasn't happened yet, so you can't call somebody the GOAT when they haven't even done it. Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar 3. Well, 3 for WrestleManias, that is. 300 for total number of matches. To unify the WWE and the Universal Championship. What did you think?
I've seen this match before.
Me too. Me too. This match was every single Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns match they've ever had, except that the heel and babyface are different.
Exactly. It's one of those things where even when Brock Lesnar came back at SummerSlam with a badass look, we all were hoping, we all were praying that when we got the final match, that it wouldn't be the same paint by the numbers match they always do.
Boy, were we wrong.
Boy, were we wrong.
Reigns' 3D image was Godzilla-ing Dallas, but I'm over the graphics. I'm over the 6-minute entrances. I'm just sick of all the goddamn nonsense.
Roman Reigns milks everything for way too fucking long.
Because they tell him to.
It's not even that they tell him to. It's that he is a Triple H disciple.
Yeah, and I really, really like Roman Reigns, but this match made me really just disinterested in what happens with him afterwards. You know, they do the entrances, you know, Paul Heyman does Roman Reigns's, and then Brock Lesnar does Paul Heyman's. And good, because fuck Mike Rome. Because
at the very least, it was funny watching Brock Lesnar do his own intro.
Yeah, it was. And then they do the barricade spot, and they do.
It wouldn't even have been that bad if this wasn't the worst looking of all the barricade spots they've ever done in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, it was pretty weak. And this was, you know, the crowd was into this because the heel and babyface were changed, but this was the same match they had at 31. This is the same match they had at 34, except without the juice. This is the same one they had in the cage match. This is the same one they had at Saudi Arabia, which I think also was the cage match, but this...
It's 2 different Saudi Arabian shows, the SummerSlam matches, all the same bullshit we see from Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar was on display. When you've seen one match, you've seen them all. Except there was one difference.
The heel and baby faces were different.
And the winner.
And the winner. And that was it. That was legitimately it. Are those red underwear the only ones that Roman Reigns has?
I hate this gimmick that you have, Sean.
It's not a gimmick. He's the one who wears them. It's not a gimmick if he's doing it.
Point it out.
Well, then have him stop taking power bombs. Then
Who knows? Hey! Roman Reigns has been champion for a long fucking time. Maybe that underwear is good luck.
It's his lucky underpants. It's his lucky championship underpants to match the color that the belt used to be. This.
Oh.
Yeah. Then.
Why do you gotta hurt me like this?
Well, you're not as hurt as much as the ref was, because he takes a ref bump, and Cole was passionless. He had so much life for Pat McAfee, and then for the double unification world title, it's the Masters. The Masters, which is going on as we speak. The final day of the Masters probably just concluded prior to this show going up. The Masters had more entertaining commentators than Michael Cole was in this match.
Well, that's because, again, Michael Cole's seen it all. How can you dress up a pig if you keep seeing the pig every single day?
I know. Well, I can't disagree with that logic. They did this weird spear to the side, and they barely caught Paul Heyman's hand during the cover from Brock to Roman. I think it was on the F5, actually pushing. Oh, it was on the Kimura lock. I'm sorry. Actually, when it looked like Roman Reigns was going to tap out, you barely saw Paul Heyman's hand push the ropes so that Roman could grab it. I mean, barely. Blink and you would have missed it. That's how much interference Paul Heyman had in this match when he was the crux of the story.
Again, Kevin Dunn sucks, and Vince McMahon doesn't know how to book.
Kevin Dunn sucks, Vince McMahon sucks, WWE sucks, Roman Reigns sucks, Brock Lesnar sucks, Michael Cole sucks, we suck, everybody sucks. This just... Roman Reigns won, it was an okay finish, but who the fuck cared?
Also, by the way, Roman Reigns had his shoulder separated legitimately by that Kimura.
But didn't he like pop it back in though?
No, that's the thing. He tried to pop it back in, but that's why at the end when he held up both the belts, one of his arms couldn't hold up all the way.
Huh. I mean, thankfully he's all right, and they won't. As far as I know, he won't have to miss much time.
But even if he does miss time, honestly, at this point, it would be a good thing because he was associated with one of the worst nights of professional wrestling. And haven't we said that before?
Yeah. Yeah, but not like this. Not like this. This was a new low for WWE, and sadly, it's not Reigns or Brock's fault. It really isn't. They just ended up having a ho-hum match on a show full of straight-up flaming garbage. And it's just... If this match was the only match on the card, then maybe this would have been okay. But after everything we had seen on this night, do you even care who beats Roman at this point for that belt?
No.
Do you even care whether we see Brock Lesnar or Paul Heyman again on this show?
No.
Do you care about anyone on this show?
The handful is down to like maybe one or two people.
Yeah, and Roman and Brock were kind of my one or two people. And the rest of this the rest of the nobodies on this show ruined the show. This was the one of the last things I said was that this really ruined me on WWE, potentially forever.
What did JoshAgeddon have to say?
Well, there wasn't a whole lot. First up, in Brock versus Roman, 267. End this show, please. Oh, great. Brock and Roman for the millionth time. Marvelous. If these two put on an 80-star classic, that still wouldn't save this wretched show. Agreed. Literally nothing. Save everyone on WWE and creative and Vince McMahon put before a firing squad in the ring can save this show. This match is good, but I've seen it. Repeatedly. I'm over it. Roman wins with a random spear off a countered F5, anticlimactic as fuck. Thank God this show is over. And thank God this podcast is nearly over, but we got to give out ratings, and then we'll talk about really what the answer to the question that we posed prior to this WrestleMania was, are we watching WWE again after this? We'll get to that in a second. Skylar, I want to start with you. What was your... Actually, you know what? Let's start with JoshAgeddon's rating. Then we'll go to you, and then we'll close with me. The closing thoughts for JoshAgeddon. Wow. My worst nightmares check under the beds for WrestleMania 38 Night 2. I thought Night 1 was bad, which it was. Debatable. This is next level. This company should fucking die. It is straight up cancerous, toxic garbage that is further proof that every day we stray further from God. Edge and AJ was great, but even that had a stupid finish. This was one of the worst things I've ever seen on a screen. The Room was better than this. The Star Wars Holiday Special was better than this. The first couple videos on my YouTube channel were better than this, and that's because as shit and unwatchable as those videos are, I at least was passionate about making them. WWE, they punish the passionate. Fuck this show and this company. 0 out of 10.
A new low. The second ever 0 out of 10 given on this company, on this podcast.
Yep. Skylar, your review.
Professional wrestling has always had a place in my heart because at its best, at its highest moments, it is a great art form. It is a great sport. It speaks to the human cycle of competition and the human story of striving to be better. That's not what WWE is anymore. They are corporate greed, desiring to make money off of a business they don't care about. Except for the one or two people that maybe care. Everyone else is just in it for the money and are willing to humiliate themselves in order to get that money. This show, Night 2, took all the goodwill out of Night 1, which even with the problems I had on Night 1, I still gave it a high score of 6 out of 10, which I really shouldn't have in hindsight. This show ruined everything. Will I watch WWE again? I honestly don't know. I've been saying it for years. This company will not get better until Vince McMahon dies. And I still stand by that. Every single day, the promo that CM Punk cuts ages like a fine wine. And it aged no finer than watching this show. This was terrible on levels I've never seen before, and probably will see again if I continue to watch WWE and they continue to make dumbass decisions. So I'm going to join Joshua. I'm not going to be proud of this, but I have to agree with him. 0 out of 10.
Wow. Folks, we're going to be breaking some new ground here. Because for the first time in history, all three of us are in agreement on the rating. Here's my thing. I'm not going to get upset right now because I think upset isn't necessarily the vibe that I have. It's my passion is destroyed. To the point where I actually, and I'll admit to you to this guy, this show was so bad I actually considered stopping the podcast. Because my passion for professional wrestling was completely killed on that night. On the night, that last Sunday. Thankfully, I've had a week to digest this show, which makes me realize that that's stupid. Because you and I and JoshAgeddon are some of the few people who keep the actual true spirit of professional wrestling alive. And if we go, so goes the show. We can't do that. We've got shows that are worth watching in our weekly shows that we do where we spotlight wrestlers of the past and the present, and we talk about matches good and bad, and we review topics good and bad, and we talk about all the news of the week and everything that goes on in the world of professional wrestling. Wrestling needs people like us. But in the case of WWE, they, like I said before, have completely admitted defeat. This show was them tapping out, saying, we are done with the business that brought us to the dance. Between the review that Abizzle gave, where there's commercial breaks where they actually just stop and the lights go dark and they go back into the corners until the lights come back on and it's on TV, which goes to show you what they really care about. They don't give a fuck about the fans. That's been clear for years. They don't care about them. You're going to have to just sit there and wait until we get back on television. Then we'll start giving you the show that you paid $100 some odd for. They don't care about the fans. They don't care about telling good stories. They don't care about the wrestling. They care about NBC. They care about Fox. They care about Saudi Arabia. And that's it. They have taken the soul out of this company and really in a lot of ways have taken the soul out of professional wrestling. That's why I will give AEW credit. There's passion in that company. There's heart in that company, albeit they're morons, and Tony Khan does not know what the hell he's doing, and he thinks that the people who dislike AEW are a bunch of Russian bots because he's a total fucking idiot, and he has had 3 years to figure out or had somebody tell him how to properly book and draw, and he's just incapable or completely ignorant of it because he thinks that he's God's gift to booking, which is why he's now booking 4 shows on AEW and Ring of Honor, because he can. And then if you're a wrestler, if you're an aspiring wrestler, what do you do? What do you do now? You go to AEW where people have a passion for this place. You sometimes get the pin into the hole for the right combination of things to make something happen really, really well. But you always get the sense that they're just one dumb decision away from the TBS and TNT pulling the plug on that company. You know what I'm saying? It's
exactly. It's dangerous, the things that AEW does, and it would not take much for someone to die on TV.
And if that company goes and WWE is back to being the only game in town, what professional wrestling business is there to be spoken of?
It would just be WWE, the very, very few independents that exist that are even more bastardized, like game-changing wrestling.
Yep.
You could go to Japan, but again, unless you're working for New Japan, and even them,
Japan's no different.
Not compelling. It's not compelling with them anymore either.
Japan's in really a similar position, with New Japan being the only game in town and everybody else being Joshi Princess. Let's tickle our taints in apartment complexes for championships. You know, that's,
or let's wrestle with a panda costume at DDT.
Yeah, this is, at this point, the state of professional wrestling has gotten so bad that it is of my opinion that it's not just WWE that needs to die. Professional wrestling needs to die. It needs to go away for a generation so that we can finally get back to what actually made this popular to begin with. So people can get the bad tastes out of their mouths for how horrible this has become. And the people who are clinging onto it are grasping at straws desperately, praying that maybe things will get better. But at this point, you can only sell so much potential to me. And when you don't execute, or when the execution of such is so offensive to the things that were popular, there is no excuse for why Stone Cold Steve Austin, Logan Paul, and Pat McAfee were the 3 most over things on 2 nights of WrestleMania, 8 hours of WWE television. And your best professional wrestlers were the celebrities and a 57-year-old Stone Cold Steve Austin. There is no excuse for this. There is no redeeming this. There is no coming back from this. At this point, the wrestling business is dead. It's gone. It's done. It's over. WWE made sure we knew that. WrestleMania Sunday. So, in summation of this, and hopefully what will happen is everything comes crashing down, WWE disappears, AEW disappears, it all disappears, everybody who ever remembered it either ages out or is dead, so that then somebody can maybe revitalize this with the actual basics that made people care. But at this point, I don't care about professional wrestling. I care about my friendship with Skylar. I care about my friendship with JoshAgeddon, and I care about sharing the memories and booking the shows that actually do draw and would draw in ACPW and NWL, which you can watch next week if you like, and you share and you subscribe and you hit that bell button and switch it to all so that you can hear all of the actual passion for professional wrestling that we happen to have because we're keeping it alive. Because clearly, WWE does not have that. And AEW, it's a slippery slope. That's a teeter-totter that's about to fall off its axis. And so,
I mean, the whole thing with AEW is that they are one death away, or more specifically, CM Punk and Bryan Danielson not being there, to us to go back to not watching it.
Yeah, realistically, or Eddie Kingston, because I love Eddie Kingston, and I will always love Eddie Kingston.
But that's the thing, is that if you take away the 3 or 4 talents that AEW has that me and Sean and Joshua want to watch, well, I mean, Josh, again, likes AEW anyway, so who cares? But if you take away the 3 or 4 talents that me and Sean like to watch in AEW, then they're on the list too.
But at least you could see why he would like it, because there's passion in it. There's heart in it. It's got a pulse. Even though what they do is stupid.
They do it right.
Yeah. And when they do it right, it's great. When they do it wrong, it's horrible. And there's a lot of amateurs on that show. But at least it's got a pulse. This show is lifeless. It's dead, and they don't care anymore. So I can't care if you don't care. So my whole thing, before I give my final rating and my final closing statement, is, Sky, I want to pitch this to you. Obligatorily, because we are journalists at heart. You know, because we're still going to review AEW shows, even though we swore off it before. I still think we should continue our big 4 with WWE. I still think we should do the Rumble and Mania and Money in the Bank and SummerSlam like we talked about yesterday. We'll hate it. We'll have to accept it for what it is. But if we do one, we have to do the other.
The funny part is that you say Money in the Bank and not Survivor Series.
Because fuck Survivor Series. They don't give a fuck about that show. That show is the company softball game, and I couldn't care less. I couldn't care less about WWE, period. But if we're gonna have to do it because we care about you people. We care about you people who tune into us, shit on this company, and shit on AEW. The fact that we've got you, the loyal listeners of the Court-Martail podcast, you are the people that give us life. You are the people that give us the passion to keep going despite us not having passion or having our passion be sucked away like this. But we will do it for you. But in closing, I'm going to paraphrase one of my favorite CM Punk promos that he did in 2009 with Jeff Hardy. What is my interest in WWE after WrestleMania? 0. What are the chances that I watch another WWE premium live event that isn't one of the big 4 or voluntarily until things change? 0. And what is my grade of this bullshit show? 0. 3 goose eggs. And WWE, I'm going to give you a chant that the fans have been giving wrestlers when they actually have won titles when they like them. You get 3 goose eggs, and you deserve it. That's my final statement on this show. This is what it's come to, folks. We didn't want it like this. But what we do want is for you to stay tuned for next week. Because the National Wrestling League not only has passion, it has logic, it has art, it has wrestling. It doesn't have a fucking mousetrap on it. It has what actually matters in pro wrestling, the basic elements of pro wrestling. And even if it dips its toes into the sports entertainment world, it's not enough to make it egregiously offensive. You can add entertainment into your sport and still make it worth watching. That's what the NWL has to offer. Or if you want the older school approach, ACPW right on the docket. There to provide you with the old school approach, the old school feuds, the old school battles, and the blood feuds that make you want to tune in each and every week to what they've got going on. And you can hear that next week. Season 3, Episode 3. All hope is not lost in the professional wrestling business because we've got 2 companies worth watching. Isn't that right, Sky?
It is. I do have one final statement I want to make about WrestleMania as we're wrapping up here.
Let's do it.
I am hopeful. I'm a hopeful person. I'm a WWE apologist. And I'm hopeful that one day they finally get their heads out of their asses. But I'm not expecting it. And when this company dies, which it will in the next 10 years, I think WWE is going to die in the next 10 years in some fashion.
I don't disagree with you.
We're going to look back on this show and say, this is where it started.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this was the penultimate nosedive. It's been falling for a while, but this was the penultimate nosedive.
I think, though, that you and me were clinging to the hope that WWE would change, or at least they would get better. This show was absolutely proof that no, it's not happening.
No. And night 1 had its moments. They have glimpses, but not nearly enough to say, yes, the WWE is going to provide a quality programming until there is not a human being named McMahon involved with professional wrestling. This company...
McMahon or Khan,
of either variety. Either the Nick or the Tony. This is where we are. This is the state of professional wrestling as it is. And there will be a time, Sky, and I truly believe this, there will be a time when the Court-Martail podcast outdraws professional wrestling. I believe it. I genuinely believe it. So, if there's any hope to take, have faith, folks, because we're going to be sticking around, and we're going to keep things going strong as best as we can. But now, mercifully, it is time to take our first commercial break. Next week, as we mentioned, ACPW versus NWL. Sky, thank you very much for coming along and bearing through this with me on this show. We did it, man. We're on the other side.
I knew you couldn't do the show alone, so I had to be there to be the emotional support through this very tough time.
That's right, man. But we'll get by. We always do. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and we'll be right back right after this.